Let's go, let's go, let's go. I believe this is episode 543. I believe so. Soul Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Public enemy number one shirt. You know who that gentleman is, the cricket connoisseur. We're talking about Tucker Carlson and Stephen A's son, the former police chief of the Capitol. You know, we're talking about J6. Now, I wasn't going to make this video. I was done with that interview, and then I went back and watched a certain part, and then I found another video, and I was like, wow, this guy really got set up. He really did. And there's one part that he starts talking about where he's going up the chain, and the chain that he's going up, the top of it is Nancy Pelosi. And then I found another video of Nancy Pelosi, and it just doesn't add up. The way she was acting and what Stephen A's son was doing, the calls he was making, the approval he was trying to get, the situation he was trying to tame, it just doesn't add up. It's really, really weird. Really weird situation. I just want to show you guys that right now. And I know as soon as I say the name Nancy Pelosi, you're like, oh, well, I already know what happened. I get that 100%. I give her the benefit of the doubt. That's why I wanted to look into it a little bit. And I did. And in this video, they even have timestamps. Stephen A's son, within this interview, he gives timestamps as well. And the most notable one is when he finally got the approval and when the National Guard actually showed up. And then within that time, Nancy Pelosi's doing some things. And it just doesn't make sense when you look at human behavior. Well, let's get into that. Before I do, of course, you know I got to bring you to IamCoachColin.com, where you can get the infamous Soul Not For Sale clothing, particularly the t-shirt that says Soul Not For Sale, as you can see here. But you can also get the certified pure blood shirt for those of you that survived the pandemic, those of you that got out of that whole thing unscathed, untouched, unpierced, untainted. This is your certificate of achievement. Get yours now. And my personal favorite, public enemy number one, the cricket connoisseur himself. Again, I'll say it 100 times because I want people to do it. Google Agenda 2030. Google the World Economic Forum. Google You Will Own Nothing and Be Happy. And you will see, you will understand why I've branded that gentleman public enemy number one. All of that can be found on IamCoachColin.com. And if you want 10% off, no email needed. I'm giving it to you right now. Put in the discount code IamCoachColin. That's it. It's all one word. It's all capital letters. There's one L in the name Colin. And there you go. 10% off. And if you've done that with us already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now let's get into this clip.
I'm not really sure. You know,
people. You've done this for over 30 years. You're very familiar.
Let me just change that sound. I tend to listen to things on double speed. Sorry. Let's go back here.
You've been in law enforcement in D.C. specifically for over 30 years. So you know how the city runs. You know how the federal agencies respond to protests. This is not the first violent protest.
Not at all.
There have been many.
I've done many national special security events, and this was handled differently. No, the intelligence, no jib, no coordination, no discussion in advance. It's almost like they wanted it to be watered down, the intelligence to be watered down for some reason. I talked about a little bit in the book that maybe they were concerned for the Trump invoking the Insurrection Act, and they're worried about that. But I've had people, there's other, thoughts out there. But luckily we still have people investigating this because I still think there's puzzle pieces missing. Someone's going to find out what's really behind all this because it wasn't right the way the intelligence was handled and the way out we're set up on the Hill.
Big picture, just to restate, you've seen many things like this, and as you just said, this was very different. This was handled very differently. By whom?
By the intelligence. I'd say one, by the intelligence agency, two, by the military. So the reason why I say the military, think of this. By federal law, Congress passed a law that requires me to go to the Sergeant Arms, Capitol Police Board, in advance of an event, and to request federal resources such as the National Guard. So Congress passed a law. It's 2 U.S. Code 1970. Look it up. Just make sure you look it up before December 22 when they changed it. So what was in effect on the 6th. that requires me to go and get approval for bringing in National Guard or federal assistance in advance. I have to go to the Capitol Police Board and get approval from congressional leadership in advance, like I did on January 3rd. I'm denied twice because of optics and because the intelligence didn't support it. So think about that.
Let me ask you the question, who made that decision? Who denied you?
I was denied by Paul Irving, House Sergeant at Arms, and also Mike Stinger, Senate Sergeant at Arms.
And who do they
On
work,
January
who
3rd.
do they work for?
It would have been working for Pelosi on the House side. That Pelosi was the number one boss, and then McConnell on the Senate side.
So effectively, Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi shut down your request.
My request was shut down, one, because of optics, which is interesting. You're going to hear that term come up a couple more times. Optics, or the look of the National Guard on the Hill. But yeah, in the Capitol Police Board, I mean, it's unbelievable that I'm the only chief of police in the United States that has a law preventing me, not just regulations, rules that say I got to go and get approval to bring in the National Guard, a law. So that's crazy that Congress is going to pass a law that controls what I can do to protect the Capitol, and even in emergency. So think of this, even while we're under attack, I have to go to those same two people to request the National Guard to be brought in. I have 340 National Guard that have been activated. At least 150 to 180 of those are in the city, many of them within eyesight of the Capitol, okay? We get to come under attack at 12:53. 12:55, I call the Washington, D.C. Police Department. I talked to their Assistant Chief, Jeff Carroll. Thank God I had talked to him at 10:59 in the morning and asked him if he could possibly put some additional resource on Constitution Avenue. And he had some CDU platoons up there. Called him, said, hey, please send those in right away, because we knew as soon as they came to their west front, they started attacking, it was going to be bad. 12:58, I make my first call to the Sergeant at Arms, asking, saying, hey, it's bad, we need assistance, I need a declaration of emergency, I need to bring in the military immediately and federal resources. I'm told by Paul Irving, quote, I'm going to run it up the chain, I'll get back to you.
The chain is Pelosi.
The chain his chain would be up to Nancy Pelosi. He didn't have to do that, but he wouldn't give me authorization. The law says in emergency he can grant me authorization, but he didn't. He said he'd run up the chain. My next call was over to Mike Stinger. He's now the chairman of the Capitol Police Board. Told him the same thing. We're getting our asses handed to us on the wet front. I need federal resources. He said, what did Paul tell you? I said, he's run up the chain. He goes, let's wait to hear what we hear from Paul. Sorry. So for the next 71 minutes, I make 32 calls. I'm in the command center. I'm calling my partner agencies. And by law, one of the first people to offer assistance was the United States Secret Service. And by law, I shouldn't have requested their assistance. I shouldn't be until I had approval. But I'm looking at my men and women having their asses handed to them. And my first thought was, fuck it, I will take whatever discipline there is. Send me whatever you got. And that's the one text Secret Service turned over. You know how they lost all their texts?
Yes.
It's the text between their Chief Sullivan and myself. Thank God for him.
But I don't. You make this call immediately to the House Sergeant at Arms, who reports Mr. Irving, who reports to Nancy Pelosi. He says, "I'll call Pelosi."
He says, "I'm running up the chain."
Running up the chain, but that is the chain.
I hear you. I got you.
Yeah.
I want to tell you exactly what he said to me.
What happens then? Does he get back to you?
So for the next 71 minutes, I make the 32 calls to a number of agencies. 11 of those calls are follow-up calls. And look in the Senate combined report from 2001. They have a great infographic of the call after call after call after call. 11 times I call in the next 71 minutes going, where are we on the approval? Where are we in the approval? He goes, any minute now. Any minute. I'm going to get any minute. Finally at 2:09, 71 minutes later, 2:09, I'm finally given approval. Think about that. 71 minutes later. I immediately call Mike Stinger, say we've got approval. I was so pissed off, I made sure that the watch commander, I'm in the command center, I yelled to John Wisham, the lieutenant, that's my watch commander. I said, John, mark the time as 2:10. I finally got approval for the National Guard. I was that mad.
So what is I just want to pause on this for a minute. It's almost unbelievable. So this is an event that Pelosi herself has likened to Pearl Harbor and 9/11, the worst thing that's ever happened on American soil. And she's in charge of allowing the National Guard to come in and respond, but she doesn't for 71 minutes? What is that?
I can't fathom why. I mean, they had to have known what was going on. I was telling them how bad it was.
Well, it was on TV.
It was on TV. It was right outside of Mike Stinger's office. And they had a meeting in his office saying, hey, where's the National Guard? And they're like, oh, we're trying to make... The fighting's going on right outside his office. And I'm still getting delayed.
So that's interesting, right? And from the sounds of that, I already know how that sounds to anybody hearing it. But then I found this video as well, and I don't know who this is filmed by, but I think it's NBC. So they're following them around, detailing the horrors that are taking place, and yeah, let's just go through this.
Yeah, but you know what? We have got to finish the proceedings.
223. So 223. So he gets approval at 210. And basically it's approval from her. 223, she's saying we have to go through the proceedings or they will have a complete victory, which I have no idea what that even means. I don't know what victory is. I mean, we all know what that attack looked like, if we can even call it an attack, and it seemed silly. Didn't seem like anybody was really, well, I shouldn't say it seemed silly. There was some silliness going on with that whole guy with the horns on running around, just doing what he was doing. But so 223.
Senator Schumer is at a secure location, and they're locked down in the Senate.
So 242. 242, they're in a secured location, an undisclosed location, and they're just all kind of hanging out. But watch the things that she says. I'll try and keep the caption visible for everybody, but watch what she says. It's very odd.
There has to be some way we can maintain the sense that people have that there's some security or some confidence that government can function and that we can elect the President of the United States. Did we go back into session?
We did go back into session, but now apparently everybody on the floor is putting on tear gas masks to prepare for a breach. Well, I'm trying to get more information.
They're putting on their
Tear gas masks.
She's very shocked, but at the same time made this gentleman, Stephen A. Sund, this gentleman here, made him wait 71 minutes for the approval. It's very, very interesting how this all plays out, and then just the way she's responding to the whole thing. Neither here nor there. I just noticed this when I was listening to this video. I don't know. And then taking in what Tucker Carlson has covered here.
We need an area for the House members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels.
I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD. We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive personnel now. Can you get the Maryland National Guard to come too?
I have something to say, Mr. Secretary. I'm going to call the mayor of Washington, D.C. right now and see what other outreach she has to other police departments, as Leader Hoyer has mentioned.
So right now, it's 3:21 by that time. They're looking for the National Guard, which the chief of the Capitol Police has been asking for since before 2 o'clock. So, and my thinking, if they had just given him the approval, they could see what's on the TV. I'll show you another clip. There's a clip of her watching the TV, seeing what's going on. So she has access to TVs. I'm assuming the other person that is that rank, he said there's two people, Mitch McConnell as well. I assume they can all see what's going on, but they're waiting on giving the approval. They don't have to go through any checks when it comes to Pelosi and this O'Connell. They're the ones who just say yes. And if Nancy says yes, it's just all good. And to see her this frazzled and in disbelief of what's going on, why wouldn't you right away just be like, and then she's asking for more. They're asking for personnel around, not the Capitol, but the people, like her, that gentleman. They're asking for protections, kind of convoys almost like. But then also within this video that Tucker Carlson is covering, that he's doing, Stephen A. Sund says that he can see the National Guard. He says there's 350 of them, I believe he said, and they're close by. And he said, and many of them are in eyesight of the Capitol, so he can see them. Again, I've said this before in the videos, but it seems like this could have been neutralized a lot sooner. And it seems like Pelosi wants that because she's so nervous. She's so in disbelief. So let's just go look a little bit more.
Governor, this is Nancy. Governor, I don't know if you have been approached about the Virginia National Guard. Mr. Hoyer was speaking to Governor Hogan, but I still think you probably need the okay of the federal government in order to come into another jurisdiction. Thank you.
Secretary of the Army.
Oh my gosh, they're just breaking windows. They're doing all kinds of. It's really that they said somebody was shot.
So she's in shock of this whole thing. Now, the reason that she's asking for Maryland National Guard is because the National Guard that can neutralize this situation is being brought to another location. This is all verified by Stephen A. Sund. He's verifying all of this. He's the one that's telling Tucker about this. They're bringing these people who are in eyeshot of the Capitol. They're taking them in trucks, in vans, whatever, what have you. And they're taking them to a further location so they can protect the senators and the people of these offices, getting around their houses and whatnot. When all they had to do was send those people to the Capitol. If they sent those people to the Capitol, she wouldn't be seeing people breaking windows. They wouldn't have this national threat, like whatever they're classifying it as. None of that would be going on. It's just really weird. It's just really, really weird. I don't know what to make of it, quite honestly. Again, I've said it before. I'll be saying it a lot more. The attack within. That's what it seems like. It seems like if they just gave Stephen A. Sund exactly what he asked for, exactly when he asked for it, all of the protesters would have been met with National Guard members to the tune of almost 400 men standing there, shields, everything. And then when it comes to the whole, we're going inside, that wouldn't have happened. And if they did try to get past the National Guard, well, then more National Guard would have came. It would have been, then you could have classified it as something way more heinous, because now you're attacking the National Guard. Now this is past the protest. My opinion. I don't know. The attack within. I'm not going to say, all I'll say is, for someone who's as shocked as she is, who has the power that she does, it seems like this could have been neutralized way sooner. Way sooner. And then to hear Stephen A. Sund say that he's asking somebody who has to ask her, and still, because the timeline that Stephen A. Sund gives, I just showed you something that was 3:21 when all this is happening. Stephen A. Sund had to wait for the National Guard until 6 p.m. So that means when you saw that clip of everything that was going on, 3:21, they had to wait another 2 hours, another 2.5 hours for the National Guard to show up. And by the time they did, everything was pretty much done. I don't know. Now, what this could be a case of is instead of protecting the Capitol, they're protecting themselves. Let's get as much protection for ourselves as possible. We're in these undisclosed locations. This is not something that usually happens to people in our position. We're just trying to cover everybody. Maybe the next first is the Capitol, and maybe the next thing is us. So we have to protect ourselves. And maybe that's why we hear all of this talk as days followed after the event of J6. You hear people talking about their lives being threatened and this and that, because maybe they really thought that. Maybe they didn't know where this was going to go. That's the only benefit of the doubt I could really give. Other than that, what would you do in this situation? You have the ability to have the National Guard show up by the hundreds. All you have to say is, yeah, no problem, do it. And instead, you make this guy wait. He has to call 30 some odd times within 71 minutes. He's making all these follow-up calls. Why not just approve it right away? And why not make sure the people who are closest are the ones that show up? Instead, they let the evening guys come. That's why it was 6 p.m. Because those gentlemen that Stephen A. Son could see, those were day guys, I guess you could say. The ones that showed up at 6 p.m. were the evening guys. So they had to wait for the next shift because that shift was busy protecting other spaces that did not even get attacked. I don't know. What would you do in that situation? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't liked the video already, like the video. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. We're making 1 to 3 videos a day. I don't know anyone else that's doing that. It might even be 4 today. I'm not even sure. But other than that, I am out.